for today's video, we are dealing with Ron DeSantis, the governor, who had removed a prosecutor who himself was elected, incidentally, because the prosecutor had said that he was not going to enforce Florida's abortion law, and so the governor has removed him. This, of course, is controversial, so let's go ahead and get started with this. Ron DeSantis suspended a Tampa area elected state attorney who recently became the only prosecutor in Florida who had signed a pledge that he would not prosecute people under the state's newly enacted abortion law. The suspension of the Judicial Circuit Court state attorney, Andrew Warren, is effective immediately based on his outspoken stance. DeSantis says the decision was made because Warren was picking and choosing which law to enforce. The governor raised Warren's objection to prosecuting people under Florida's newly enacted 15-week abortion ban, which in Florida does not provide exceptions for rape as incest, as well as Warren signaling that he supported gender-affirming treatments for trans minors. In a Tampa news conference, which the press secretary hyped as an event that would make liberal media meltdown, DeSantis noted that there's no state law banning gender-affirming treatments, but included that in the executive order suspending Warren because one day the legislature could ban them. The legislature of Florida may want to come in and do something on that, and you're presumptively going to say you can't do it. I mean, his role is as a prosecutor. His role is to prosecute the laws that Florida passes. Warren, for his part, has said his suspension spits in the face of voters who elected him twice to serve as the Hillsborough County top prosecutor. Today's political stunt is an illegal overreach that continues a dangerous pattern by Ron DeSantis of using his office to further his own political ambition. The people have the right to elect their own leaders, not have them dictated to by an aspiring presidential candidate. Yes, but he is the governor of the state, so his elected office outranks your elected office, as we're going to discuss. Warren's removal comes as progressive prosecutors have faced a backlash in recent months. In June, San Francisco voters ousted local district attorney who had sought to hold police accountable and limit the number of people going to prison. Los Angeles County's district attorney was also heavily criticized over policies like eliminating cash bail for nonviolent offenders, and we've seen that criticism because we've covered that at least in part on the channel. Florida Senator Janet Cruz, a Tampa Democrat, blasted DeSantis' decision to suspend Warren, saying the Hillsborough prosecutor has served our community with dignity and respect, and to suspend him because he won't criminalize a woman's right to choose is unconscionable. No, the legislature already criminalized it. He's refusing to prosecute it. He's refusing to execute against the laws the legislature passed. That's the problem. There are no words to describe the attack on women happening right now in our backyard. Just when I thought Governor DeSantis couldn't be more extreme and unhinged, Cruz said. During the Thursday news conference, DeSantis was flacked by regional law enforcement officers who blasted Warren's performance as state prosecutor. Some of the officers have jurisdiction outside Warren's judicial circuit. Let me tell you something. Andrew Warren is a fraud, said the former Tampa police chief. Did you get that? I've never been good at sugarcoating anything. Apparently not. He's a fraud. He's misled the people of Hillsborough County. Warren was suspended, but has not yet been removed from office, a step that would require the involvement of the Florida Senate. The governor has tapped a county judge to fill the spot. So the governor has made an appointment to fill the spot that he created. Warren had been elected twice and was included on a slate of candidates in 2016, supported by George Soros, a major national Democratic donor who has become a political boogeyman for Republicans. So yes, literally funded by George Soros, so that's a thing. Warren and the former 9th Judicial Circuit State Attorney Amisis Ayala were both financially supported by Soros's organization and ran on a platform of criminal justice reform. All right, so with that news article out of the way, I thought maybe we could actually go to the actual executive order from the state of Florida, from the office of the governor. So go through what the relevant state law is on the issue because it helps to highlight those things. So Ron DeSantis says that Article 4 of the Florida Constitution vests the state's supreme executive power in the governor, as one would imagine, and requires the governor to take care of the laws of Florida are faithfully executed. That would include all the laws of the legislature. The governor, of course, can suspend any office from any state officer who is not subject to impeachment for malfeasance. For, among other reasons, officers' malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, which is what Ron DeSantis is arguing. He's neglecting his duty by saying he's not going to prosecute. Drunkenness, not that that's a problem in Florida, I'm sure. Incompetence, permanent inability to perform duty, or commission of a felony. Then Ron DeSantis notes that neglect of duty refers to neglect or failure on the part of a public officer to do and perform some duty or duties laid upon him by virtue of the office of which is required by law. The governor also notes that incompetence may arise from gross ignorance of official duties or gross gross carelessness in the discharge of them. The state attorneys is now a position that's subject to impeachment. Thus, they are eligible for suspension by the governor and removal from the Senate by the Senate, subject to the relevant law, because since they're not subject to impeachment, the governor has the power to unilaterally remove them. The governor notes that a state's attorney blanket refusal to enforce criminal law is not an exercise of prosecutorial discretion, at least in the governor's view, and he is the chief executive, but rather tantamount to a functional veto of the state law. I mean, yeah, because the prosecutor's saying he's not going to enforce the law at all. So basically he's saying that, I'm going to ignore the will of the legislature, which is not really his role. The governor says that Warren demonstrated his incompetence and willful defiance of his duties as a state attorney when he signed a joint statement with other elected prosecutors in support of gender transition treatments. The governor notes that Florida's criminal law prohibits partial birth abortion, which are classified as a second-degree felony and punishable by up to 15 years. Also, Florida has recently enacted the Reducing Fetal and Infant Mortality Law, which prohibits a physician from performing an abortion after a fetus reaches an age of 15 weeks, subject to certain exceptions. This is a felony of the third degree, punishable by imprisonment of up to 5 years. In the wake of the Supreme Court's decision, Warren publicly proclaimed in writing he will not prosecute individuals who provide abortions in violation of law. Specifically, Warren signed a joint statement on June the 24th of 2022, and updated on July the 25th, with other elected prosecutors, which stated the following: criminalizing and prosecuting individuals who provide abortion care makes a mockery of justice. Prosecutors should not be a part of that. And enforcing abortion bans runs counter to the obligation and interests we're sworn to uphold. No, you're sworn to uphold the law. And as such, we, the undersigned prosecutors, decline to use our office's resources to criminalize reproductive health decisions, and that's one hell of a way to put it, and commit our exercise to our well-settled discretion or refrain from prosecuting those who provide or support abortions. Our legislature may decide to criminalize personal health care decisions, but we remain obligated to prosecute only those cases that serve the interests of justice and the people. So even though the legislature and the governor have signed a law, they are putting themselves above all that, and so the governor has suspended them. That kind of makes sense, yes. Warren has effectively nullified Florida's criminal laws in the 13th Judicial Circuit, eroding the rule of law, encouraging lawlessness, and usurping the exclusive role of the legislature to define the law. And then, therefore, ultimately, as governor of Florida, he therefore, pursuant to Article 4, Section 7 of the Florida Constitution, states that he is immediately suspended and appoints a different person in place. Now, Warren, of course, can appeal to the Senate, who then is in a position to remove him or not. So whether or not he will or not, yeah, but he's suspended for the moment. So that's what's going on there. Thus, that brings us to the end of the discussion about the state of Florida and the governor's decision to suspend a prosecutor who said they weren't going to enforce a law enacted by the legislature and signed by the governor. So the prosecutor's putting themselves in a position of a veto. It's like, no. The governor says that this isn't just prosecutorial discretion, isn't just saying I'm going to lower a priority. It's like, I'm not going to prosecute these cases at all because I don't believe in it. I don't think that it's right. They shouldn't criminalize it. Brr. It's like, yeah, you're putting yourself in a position of usurping the lawful authority of the state of Florida. You're a prosecutor, not the legislature. So you can't do that. So the governor has suspended the prosecutor, appointing someone else in their place. At least for a moment, that brings us to the end of discussion of this story.